Welcome back to the Fringe podcast presented by Imperial Golf, where we talk about golf and everything else beyond the fairway. I'm here with JT Watson, John Snyder. My name is Brandon Tritek. First things first, we have a few announcements. First one being the Kansas City Golf Show coming up at the end of February here. Done it for a few years now. John, you want to let them know kind of what we do there? And
Yep, so this would be our fourth time already, right? We've done it three.
I guess you're right.
Three times. It's
Yeah.
terrifying. 4 times. February 24th through the 26th, right?
Yep, correct.
It's a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Hours. We talked about hours. I wasn't really positive on exactly what they were, but
yeah, they're not listed on the website, but they're...
it's usually around 10 to 6, Friday, and I think Saturday is 1 hour longer, like maybe 9 to 6 or 10 to 7 or something like that. And
6 is the latest they go,
Is it?
typically,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then Sunday's a little shorter. Sunday they quit at 4, I think, because we
Yeah.
tear down after
Right.
that. So, anyways, 3 days at the golf show. February again, 24th, 25th, and 26th.
Overland Park Convention Center.
Yeah. So it's Overland Park Convention Center, and you can get the hotel rooms right there too if you need to, or whatever. They've got accommodations there, and it's a cool event. I mean, obviously very golf centered. There are a lot of different types of booths there. You know, you can buy golf clubs and also shingles. You know, or siding, whatever you need.
Siding, roofing, a brand new car.
Come down to Imperial Golf to talk to us about furnishing your house. But no, it's a good show, and we've enjoyed it every time. I mean, if we're being honest, every year we're always unsure whether or not we want to do it again, and it's just a lot of work and it's a big commitment.
Yeah, the setup and tear down days they're long, but
Yeah.
it is a lot of fun. We get to meet and see a lot of people, and we're always thankful once it's happened.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the spread usually is we set up a booth, and it's basically our store. I mean, we've pretty much given that secret away at this point that we just
Right.
take our entire store with us. And
This place is empty
Yeah.
while we're at the golf show.
yeah, I was trying to cover that up for a long time because I didn't want people to know, you know. But it's great because everyone's always like, "Wow, you guys are impressive. Like, where are all your locations?" And we're like, "Parkville."
We got one.
So, no, and we set up kind of a premier booth, if you will. We're one of the prime sponsors. I don't know exactly what they call it, but Dick Stevens is the owner of the show, and he does a great job.
He does, yeah. Great host, awesome dude.
Built a good relationship with him, and we're very thankful for how he's always treated us, and he's very fair with everything and helps us out a lot. And it's actually pretty crazy how on point he is. Like, at
Yeah.
the show is like
No.
just helping every single vendor in every booth there.
Yep. Tons of energy.
Yep, riding around on a skateboard.
yeah.
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 So,
Unique cat for sure.
and so we'll have, I mean, we're partly using it this year to make some other announcements, right, about growth with like club fitting and whatnot. And
Right.
we don't know yet to what capacity we'll have display there. But we do know Callaway and Ping Golf are coming to Imperial Golf, and I don't know if I prematurely announced that.
No,
but,
no. That was on the list.
Good bridge to that.
Drum
So-
roll, please.
Drum
Damn
roll.
it.
Sorry, Tim. We love you at Mizuno. It's nothing personal, but no, it's going to be cool to bring those guys on, and working with Trent and Craig. Trent's from Callaway Golf, Craig's from Ping Golf, and we're excited to start a relationship there and
Yeah.
to talk about it at the golf show. So we'll, in the capacity that we're ready, we'll have some kind of display there, hopefully, that shows that, and that we're going to be starting to fit for those companies as well.
Yeah.
In Parkville. So.
Yeah, it's good to meet with. We actually met with Trent just yesterday and kind of got our hands on the new Paradigm lineup from Callaway.
Yep.
Definitely some good
cool
quality stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looked cool, performed well.
It's always a wormhole when you start talking tech to those guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm always like kind of over it, I guess. Like every year I'm like, okay, we got a new release, whatever. And then they start talking to you and you're like, it's kind of interesting, the science behind it all. And you learn how much they do care about their products and the unique things they're trying to do to set themselves apart. Every company, for sure.
Without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, and just listening to Trent talk about Callaway's products and stuff. I mean, obviously we're not really in the know or familiar with their products. We've been working with Mizuno for 5 years now. So we've kind of got familiar with their process
4,
at least. Going into year 5, I guess. And
Yeah.
so with Callaway and Ping coming on, I'm really curious, just personally as a golfer, as a player, to see what they offer and what their unique take is on their equipment and what they kind of highlight or whatever. And it's really easy to be biased when you have one brand. I mean, we preach being brand agnostic, right? We have for a long time, but that's kind of hard to do when you're limited to a schedule that's 99% instruction, and most of our fittings are just convenience for our students, really. So
we just haven't been able to, like, fittings just not become a primary part of the business yet, and mainly because of lack of ability, like you said. So
we're just limited on time, right?
Yeah. Brandon's here now, and he's going to help us fix that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's great because he's actually a huge nerd. So it works out.
A little bit true. I was it Tuesday? I was doing a little research. Might make a video about. We always hear about MOI in drivers, which stands for moment.
What does
of
that
inertia.
mean, Brandon?
It means moment of inertia. So yeah, I was here on Tuesday. I had a break between lessons, and I was
I actually know. Disclaimer.
I was reading up on conservation of angular momentum and other
Yeah.
physics material to try and research that. And so yeah, huge nerd.
You learn all about that in associate's degrees.
Absolutely. Especially when you're at a golf school.
Yeah.
I missed that day.
Yeah. It was one day.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, looking forward to kind of taking over on the fitting side of things, just helping to expand that. Just trying to learn as much as I can about the new products, and obviously be able to provide the best service possible to any clients that would come in and get fittings. In terms of Callaway, we should have the new components and have the new product on hand, hopefully by the golf show, but at least end of February. So, if you're out there in the area, want to schedule a fitting, end of February, early March, be
Well, we know there's
there.
Callaway cart coming. I mean, so
Right.
we do have we do have components coming pretty quick, and Trent's been awesome to get that moving as fast as possible for us. And Ping was actually, we don't need to talk a lot about it, but kind of a nice surprise this year. We were thinking that it was going to take a lot longer, and there was initial talks of not really having any Ping connection for the next year yet.
Yeah, they told us spring 2024 was their first idea of when they'd be able to get us product and stuff, but it looks like
turns out we are special.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah.
It's like, they're nice guys. We'll give them a handout.
Well, there's clearly opportunity here. I think that's what we were hinting at in our first episode, right? It was just there's nothing in the Northland, and you get north of the river and, all the way up to St. Joe and Kearney, Independence. I mean, there's clearly a need for that up here. And so it's kind of exciting to see what tapping into that's going to reveal from a golfer standpoint and a fitting standpoint.
Especially the way we like to do things. I mean, we like to be thorough, and obviously we want to create an experience for people, and that's for a number of reasons. I mean, we enjoy doing that, like thoroughly enjoy doing that. We want people to remember their experiences here, but we also want to be honest with fitting, because we're pretty darn honest in instruction.
Yeah.
Yep. Like sometimes maybe too much for me anyway. Right. But anyways, you want people to kind of remember their experience. That's how you stick out. And as cliche as it is in business, like that's how you set yourself apart in an industry that, is recreated a lot. It's easy to recreate.
Yeah.
You could just go to a retail store and buy clubs and get a fitting, and that's not to knock on retail stores, but that 30 minutes or whatever, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to get exactly what you need. And that varies per store for sure, but I think we're excited to really grow the fitting operation, and it's definitely Brandon's passion, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, my years in insurance kind of prepared me for it, because I would just have to spend time just memorizing different scenarios that, this company, if your roof is over 15 years, you can't go here, you got to go here. So it's been pretty easy to transition just onto the golf side of, okay, this technology is in these clubs, this is what they offer, this is who they're suited for, sort of thing.
Yeah,
it's been pretty easy to kind of just compartmentalize them into different categories. And
so and to be clear, the tech does matter. I mean, you get, especially in the golf world, you get caught kind of in the, just the annual releases and constant club releases, and sometimes more, right? There's been moments where companies have released 2 or 3 times a year, and we're just like, seriously. But, I mean, in the defense of that, people aren't buying clubs typically or replacing clubs that often. So you got to think they are producing equipment, for the person that maybe does have a 7 or 8 year old driver.
Yeah. Well, that's the kind of the timeline that you and I've talked about, right? Is drivers kind of a 3 to 5 year window, because the tech, unless you just have this really odd year, like 2019 felt like that, right? When I did my driver fitting and stuff at Golf MD down south, shout out to Mike Dickerson and those guys, are awesome. Yeah. And that was really relevant back then, was just like every company that year seemed to have just a dynamite driver release. And I got to experience hitting a couple different brands and seeing what performed and what didn't. And that's what I'm kind of selfishly excited about, I think, as we bring on more brands, is like how my bag might evolve. Obviously, I mean, you and I have been playing Mizuno pretty much exclusively. Aside from my Titleist driver, it's all Mizuno stuff. And so I'm kind of excited to see what parts of the bag, what components might perform a little better brand to brand.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's the brand agnostic part. And you typically, if you're really being thorough with any player, you're fitting them into multiple brands dependent on what part of the bag you're talking about.
Sure.
It's not, let's be honest, no company's good at everything, right? Like, everyone's got their niche, and it's not to knock, like, they do make improvements. Like, Mizuno's made huge improvements in driver production.
Absolutely.
Drivers
no doubt.
have gotten awesome.
They're amazing.
But
yeah.
Everyone's kind of known for their thing, and you kind of forget that the more time goes on, that like Cleveland was exclusively a wedge company, right? TaylorMade was known for woods, right? Mizuno was known for irons. Like, Titleist is known for making a golf ball.
Srixon started with golf ball as well.
Yeah.
Right. It's in the U.S. market.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that variation is why you do fitting. Exactly why you do fitting. Because you get caught in this thought process that, like, especially the average cynical golfer, like, oh, it's all the same, like, it doesn't really matter what I buy, what I spend my money on, like, and that's just not totally true. Fitting actually helps you tune in, or I should say tune out, a lot of the inconsistencies that you have in your results, outside of swing problems, obviously. But
I mean, at worst, you're taking away an excuse from a player. Your equipment fits you. It's no longer you can't.
There is relevance to it.
Yeah. Which, I mean, as coaches, you're doing that from an instruction standpoint from day one. It's just starting to eliminate excuse after excuse. Making sure athletically or movement wise, biomechanically, that they're capable of doing certain things, and then you get to the equipment side, and you're trying to reduce variables, right? I mean, that's what the game is just trying to reduce variables as much as possible. Make yourself as consistent as you can.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of just looking at all those numbers and just seeing where the little...
That's why you're a nerd.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, that's what makes you perfect for it, because honestly, like, outside of trying to go through my own, I mean, I just did that today to kind of send in my set for this year and stuff with Mizuno, and because I replace my irons every year, and just to stay up to date with what they have and what they have to offer, and test out the new stuff. Yeah, John's been playing you got the 919s, the JPX 919s.
Yeah, I was going to take that a different route as a joke, but that's fine. Be like, they were made in 1968.
I got hickory shafts. I like them bendy.
Yeah.
It's about as technical as I get.
The purpose, I think it's probably worth talking about the purpose of fitting beyond just like distance, right? Because that's the stigma with fitting, is like, well, I went for a driver fitting and I didn't hit it further, so it's not worth it. And it's like, there are much more important factors than did you gain distance. Yeah. Which, I mean, really, that was the majority of what your fitting was about with your Titleist.
Exclusively.
It had like no gains potentially other than off-center hits, right?
Correct. Because I had it. I mean, I don't know how common it is for industry professionals to have a driver that's 15 years old, but I did.
I made that driver. Well, I helped you make it.
You fixed the shaft.
Yeah.
That's another story.
Did you install that, or did I do that?
No, you did.
Oh, okay.
You did, and I was so baffled because that was like
I was baffled because I didn't know what I was doing. I'm shocked the club head stayed on.
Well, so this goes back 12 years now.
Amazing, you trust me.
But I bought that driver for $20 from a Golfsmith used club rack. Took it to Myrtle Beach, couldn't hit it. The shaft broke, which is another story. And then John offered to replace it with just what was it? An old V2? Is that the pizza guy?
That's pizza guy.
Okay,
Pizza's
cool.
here.
Pizza's here.
Yeah. Eat healthy.
I got
pause
food on
button.
mine.
Pause button.
All right, so we were
some new subjects.
We were back into fitting, right? So we left off. We were talking about fitting.
Right.
We were talking about the importance
before
of
the
fitting.
pizza showed up.
Yeah. And we got distracted. I got distracted by corn nuggets.
Corn nuggets.
Delivery
So
driver
good.
crashed our podcast.
It made me feel
Brandon
worse.
about vomited.
Yeah. John loves it. Brandon's throwing up.
Corn nuggets, not a fan.
Clearly, not every Iowan is built the same.
Apparently not.
I
They're good, man.
I'm too
Ranch.
traditional. I take my corn on the cob, and that's about it.
Really, you don't even.
We should edit that out as well.
Nope. Not a fan of creamed corn.
I would have to say the same. I
Yeah.
think I'm just a corn on the cob guy.
Sweet corn is awesome.
It's-
Absolutely awesome.
I can have corn on the cob, but yeah, I'm not a sweet corn guy either. I like it just.
You don't
kinda
like sweet corn?
Butter.
He likes the
or
feed
pepper.
corn.
Yeah, you do realize what you're talking. You do like sweet corn. You're not eating field corn,
How do you know?
you idiot.
Because it's not produced for human consumption.
Yeah.
I just ate what was in the trough. I don't know.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
We know which
We
one's
were.
not
I grew up
that
on
one.
food stamps. I don't know.
Yeah, so did we, but
Good point. They literally had to run out in the cornfield at night and pick their corn,
yeah.
steal it. from
not
the
knowing it
local
was
farmers.
heavily genetically modified. That's why there's an arm growing out of the top of his head.
That's why he wears a hat.
My nubbin.
So back to being serious. Club fitting.
Oh my god. Derailed.
Yeah, totally.
Derailed.
Well, I think we exhausted the club fitting kind of.
Absolutely.
We had some other topics to
There's
cover.
going to be a
Yeah.
lot to talk
So-
about with it though in the future. So.
Yeah, and I'll once we get product on hand and stuff, I'll start doing some review videos, a la Rick
Yeah.
Shields sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, they get sent stuff directly from the company now because they're so famous, and
Yeah.
like 2 months before a product even launches.
We should do durability testing.
You're the one paying for it, so if you want to do it, go ahead.
What you mean, like trying to run over it, like
Well, yeah.
Uncle Rico and
We'll do
Napoleon
that
Dynamite?
one. Yeah. See if we can hit that club head over the mountains.
Where are you, the Hammer? What's his name? 450 yards over a mountain.
Oh, the hammer driver.
The Hammer X driver.
Boom!
PXG.
Yeah, that's the Bob Parsons stuff. Yeah. Boom, baby.
Boom, baby. We make the best golf clubs, period.
So angry.
I really want to apply that to Imperial golfer instruction. We're the best coaches, period.
I mean, our email address on the front is the Best Golf Academy. So
Yeah.
Hey,
it's true.
hey, don't rag on my beginnings. That was actually, that name was not created by us. I don't know if you know that.
I am aware. Yes,
That was the investors. Yeah. I was like, I don't like it.
it's very cheesy.
Yeah.
Very like if you have to put
Great
the best
guys.
on something,
Nice
you're
guys.
not the best.
No.
You're the best.
So I very explicitly had this discussion with them. It's like,
Yeah.
The fact that you're describing that is a problem. People are automatically going to assume they're not really that good.
Yeah, like the pizza we just said. It says the best in Kansas City.
It's like the guy that walks
Probably
into
not.
the room, but I'm the alpha male.
Yeah.
I don't think you are.
I really wanted it to be the best golf academy at Gmail, but with a question mark.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
The best golf academy?
we,
We have nets and golf balls?
I mean, that's better than Average Joe's.
yeah.
Average Joe's Golf Academy.
At least that's more honest.
At the time, it would have been.
Average Imperial.
I guess we got to rename the podcast.
Yeah. The average Fringe.
Yeah.
Or the rough.
Yeah. Yeah. That's way better, actually.
I think it's based on this conversation. It's definitely in the weeds.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Deep.
where we're at.
Yep.
Or like one of my
Deep in the
favorite. I've probably said this before. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast. One of my favorite moments in. Is it? It's not. No, it's not Tin Cup. What movie am I thinking? A golf movie I'm thinking of, where it's like, he's talking about Gary McCord being like, where he's like spent all of his life in the trees and in darkness. You remember that quote?
Happy Gilmore.
Is that in Happy Gilmore?
It might be.
I have no idea what you're saying.
Yeah.
Without the quote,
Yeah,
I can't give. I can't help you.
I busted that quote.
Yeah,
so
cool.
Yeah.
Cool
Not
story,
funny.
John.
Pizza went to your head.
It's a great story. I promise. It's funny.
Thanks for bringing it up.
You got a gluten
That's
allergy?
a good story, Grandpa.
Yeah, my throat's getting kind of like, I can't breathe very well.
Why is your face swollen?
Yeah. Oh, man.
So we had some other questions from
Well-
social media. If you wanted to bring those up.
Well, first things first. Before we get into golf topics more,
Uh-oh.
we are in Kansas City.
Yep.
There's a game tomorrow,
Oh, that's right.
as of when we're recording this.
Curling?
Foosball.
Badminton, NFL playoff divisional round.
Oh, football. That thing
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
can't care about anymore because all my teams suck.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So again, we have a couple.
Oh, yeah.
Noticed my hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop making fun of Russell Wilson, by the way. It's
Seriously.
really annoying.
Yeah. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
They'll get it figured out.
Hard worker. It's amazing how you can have basically 10 years of awesome and 1 year of not, and everyone makes fun of
That's
you.
the media today, though, man. They
Yeah.
just ragged on the guy the whole year.
Yeah.
And the way he ended the year, the last couple games, they got stuff figured out. And if they sign Sean Payton, I got to imagine that'll help somewhat.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
who knows? Anyway,
Yeah, it's like
but
brand new system, brand new playbook.
Yeah.
You've been with one team your entire career.
JT knows it better than anyone. Bad offensive system.
Yeah.
It was hard to watch.
That's a real thing though in football. I mean, you plug a great player in the wrong system, it doesn't matter.
I mean, I played enough to know, not at any like definitive skill set, but yeah, it was very obvious how unorganized they were the whole year. But yeah, some big games this weekend. It's my favorite weekend of football. Man, you get 8 really good teams and hopefully 4 really good games to watch.
Go Jags. I have no affiliation. with
Yeah.
them, so.
Yeah.
Or you got 2 Packers fans here and obviously
Yeah.
Broncos fans.
Right,
so.
right.
We have
yeah.
no stake in the game at this point, and we got Lions.
We do.
behind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lions
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah.
They're trending in the right direction now.
trending.
Mr. Campbell's got them moving.
I love
Yeah.
it.
What they
Yeah.
finish 7-1 or something like that.
Yeah.
Last 8
Down the
yeah.
stretch,
Last 8
yeah.
games.
They had an outside shot up until week 18 to get back into
Yeah.
the playoffs, but
Yep.
And of course, we kind of hate you a little bit, but that's okay. The Packers deserved it. They didn't.
Do we or do we hate our situation more?
Yeah.
I was going to say,
I would be
Packers
hating
fans
this
are just spoiled, man. You've
Yeah,
gone
we're
to
spoiled.
back-to-back Hall of Fame QBs and been
Yeah.
competitive for 30 years.
It's weird not to be in the playoffs.
Right.
It's been so long. I don't know
Yeah.
what it's like to.
Well, yeah, I'm
back
in the
in
same boat.
postseason.
You know, I mean, Broncos have been really competitive, and this is our 7th straight losing season, so it's unusual for sure.
Yeah, and that's where I can come in and say this is brand new territory. I have never seen this in my life. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
We were above 500. Or wait, did you win 9 games?
Yeah, 9-8.
9-8.
9-8.
That's a good year.
Funny stat about the Jags though, they've never Trevor Lawrence has never lost on a Saturday.
Right.
How many games has he played on a Saturday?
I mean,
lot.
throughout high school, college,
41-0.
Oh, really? So that's what you mean. I was like,
never lost on a
this sounds like a bad joke. Like he's never actually
Yeah,
played a game.
he's
on a
1-0 in the NFL on Saturday.
I have to root for him because I won a prop bet on him in Vegas.
Oh, that's right.
And that's the only time I've ever made a sports bet. Actually. Like 12-1 odds. Boom. National championship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet on that. I bet on him scoring the first touchdown. And it was like it was second quarter by that point.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
weird game.
It was hilarious.
A lot more competitive than this year's national championship.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Poor TCU.
So who you
Come
got?
on, dude.
Jags or Chiefs?
I actually picked the Jags in my bracket.
Oh, nice.
Really?
I had the Jags going 2 rounds and
Yeah.
then get knocked out by the Bills, I believe.
Man, if I'm betting money, I don't think I could do it.
Yeah,
I mean,
bet money, I'd have to
Mahomes
go with
is
the Chiefs.
I don't
undefeated
bet
at
money.
home, so I don't gamble.
Yeah.
I think the media was way overblowing this, but Trevor Lawrence talking about, playing one of the best venues in football and being like, but I can't imagine it saying it louder in like our fans. It's like, hang on. It's Arrowhead.
You play in Jacksonville, bro.
Yeah. I want to be on your side, but you're wrong.
Yeah, they hold the world record for a reason, and they are loud and obnoxious. It is a raucous environment.
But I don't doubt Jags fans during that game were losing their minds.
Here's the deal. Jacksonville is in the perfect situation. They're playing with house money.
Yeah.
You know, they trended in the right direction towards the end of the season, you know, and they got to win a playoff game that by halftime they had no business winning.
Yeah.
You know, the Chargers,
crazy.
You know, reminded themselves they were the Chargers and collapsed. But honestly, I mean, it's one of those scenarios where you look at each game, you know, you can kind of see and make a case for all 8 teams, you know, making it competitive and winning. But I'm with you. I think Bills will probably edge out the Bengals since it's in Buffalo. But I think we're going to see a neutral site championship game in Atlanta. I think Kansas City will win.
All that passion behind DeMar too.
Yeah, that
adds to it. You can't ignore that.
Right, it has to.
Plus, they're awesome.
And then on the NFC side, I'm just curious, like the Eagles weren't playing good football the last month of the season, and the Giants have some momentum, and those divisional rivalries, man, are just so intense. They're just not. I don't know. They got a good run game, and Daniel Jones hasn't really been proven to be like an elite thrower. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with it. I think it's Eagle. I think it's chalk, man. I think it's 1 and 2 on each side. I think Eagles, Niners, and Chiefs, Bills.
It just depends on how. I haven't checked the Eagles, at least how healthy they've been getting, because they just had so many injuries the second half of the season. Like they just didn't have their team.
Well, they're missing. I think they're missing Lane Johnson for this game, and that is a big one. Their left tackle. Hurts isn't 100%, but he'll play. So, yeah, it's just going to be, you know, I'm actually, like, shifting gears to the Niners-Cowboys game, which as a kid, like, my dad is a Cowboys fan in the 90s. That was kind of the matchup that was, like, who's going to win the Super Bowl. Like, whoever won the Niners-Cowboys games in the 90s was the eventual Super Bowl champ there for 3 or 4 years in a row. And so it's cool to see that rivalry renewed. But Brock being a rookie, winning 6 straight, you got to figure he's going to have a bad game at some point.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know.
We got to be faux 49ers fans, I think.
Yeah.
Brandon and I.
Yeah, the Iowa connection.
Couple Iowa boys.
Yeah.
I'm from Ames, so.
Iowa Stater and Iowa boy.
And Kittle. Yeah,
I
Hawkeye.
watched Brock for 4 years at Iowa State, and I mean, he's a little undersized, and I figured, you know, he'd be good in the NFL, but I didn't know he'd have success. I didn't think he'd have success this early, to be honest. But starting for 4 years in college.
His composure is what strikes me. Like, the kid just owns the moment, and it just doesn't seem too big for him. And you've seen that with Burrow really early in his career already. And so, I don't know. I'm curious to see, regardless of how the outcome is with the Niners this year, what they do next season. You know, you got to figure Garoppolo's going to go find a job elsewhere. They had plans with Trey Lance. You know, he got hurt. So it's you know, they got 3 potential guys that could come in and win games for him.
Right.
Which I don't know if that gives more credit to Shanahan and his system, because it just seems like they plug in people and win, at least this year. But that's just because they got, I think, the
Green Bay knows everything about that.
I don't know. I think the Niners have the most talented roster. They've got
absolutely,
you know, all pros at seemingly every position, it seems like, and so they just have so many freaking weapons on the offensive side of the ball.
Not to mention going out and like getting Christian McCaffrey midseason.
Yeah,
I know all about him too at Iowa.
Yeah.
If y'all remember a Rose Bowl game that we didn't belong at. That was rough.
Yeah.
That was the last.
What year was that?
That was the last 12-0 season. 15.
Yeah.
It was C.J. Beathard. Yeah, it was C.J. Beathard.
Also a former 49er.
Yeah. They had a good run that year, and then it fizzled. They barely lost the Big Ten championship, and then they went to the Rose Bowl, and that was Stanford when Christian McCaffrey was there, and I think he had at least 4 touchdowns. I'm thinking 5.
He was like their
But
whole
it's just
offense,
like,
too.
Yeah. It's like, wow, we're
Being a Huskies fan.
we really don't belong here, do we?
Yeah, he ran all
time
over
where I
everybody that year.
Couldn't say anything.
Nobody stopped that kid in college.
Yeah, it was awful.
He was fun to watch.
Yeah, but I mean, back to the Niners matchup. Even if they have a bad game, I think they can still easily like even if Purdy has a bad game, I think they can still easily win. Like their defense is just so good at getting turnovers and stops. Even if they only put up 13 points, you know, that's still probably going to be enough.
No, you're right. I mean, Dak has to play like he did against Tampa for the Cowboys to have a chance. He's got to play mistake-free They got to clock control it, run the ball well. Because Pollard was kind of non-existent again in the Buccaneers game. Tampa had a decent defense, but they weren't a good team this year. They were disorganized. Tom, for the first time, actually looked 45 years old. He just finally looked, a
He's
bit
older
out of
than that,
place.
isn't he?
No, he'll be 46 next year.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I have a really hard time seeing the Niners lose that game, but anything can happen, man. The playoff, they get sloppy, you get weird bounces, you just never know. That's why I love this weekend. It should be really entertaining, all of them.
Yeah. Kansas City at least has a bit of an advantage, again, playing at home, and then it's supposed to snow all afternoon. So
yeah,
coming up from Florida, and they're
good weather football, man. Love it. Snow games are fun.
Yeah. So it should be a good time either way.
For sure.
Looking forward to weekend and see what happens.
Hopefully Casey wins so we don't have to deal with unhappy people.
Yeah. That was actually the first thing my wife and I noticed when we moved here. We moved here September, kind of beginning of the football season.
Right.
So we went out for dinner one night on a Sunday evening when we first got here. We walk into the restaurant, it's like empty. There's just nobody there.
No, yeah.
There was one other table in the restaurant with people, and this is like 6:45 on a Sunday.
Yep.
There was this Chinese family over in the corner at a long table, and then it was just us. And they had like 7-8 servers there. Like, what's going on?
Yeah,
like, why is no one here?
Little known fact. If
Sunday
you wanna,
night football.
Yeah, if you want to play, free on a round of golf, just with no one on the golf course, make sure you're playing on an afternoon where the Chiefs are playing.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
The course will be empty pretty much for the most part. So
yeah,
it is neat to see how fervently people support the Chiefs here. I really do appreciate that because I think all of us grew up in a non-NFL, area or town.
That was college for me. Yeah.
So I'm a Broncos fan because I grew up in a time when Elway was, coming up and winning Super Bowls, and he was kind of the, Mahomes 1.0. Could scramble and make things happen and stuff, and he was entertaining to watch, and that was when I was 10, 12 years old, the guy that I wanted to emulate, and so, because the Seahawks, where I grew up, were terrible as a kid, so, when you're in those formative years and you're playing pee-wee football and stuff, you tend to look at who's winning a lot, and I was allowed to, that's the other thing. It feels like if you're here and you grow up here, it's like, why are you not a Chiefs fan? You know?
I tell you that about Pee Wee football for me. The worst thing was we had Vikings colors. I was so mad.
Oh, I had that same issue, man.
And at the time I had a Troy Aikman jersey, so I tried to wear that to practice like 3 or 4 times. It didn't fly well. It didn't make sense either.
Yeah,
they're on the line. You're wearing Troy Aikman jersey.
The two most, especially in the 90s, the two most hated teams in our household was the Raiders and the Niners. And I was the Battleground Niners in 6th grade and the Raiders in 7th grade. It was so painful, man. It was just like, oh, why do I have to wear these colors? This is brutal.
Yeah.
But it was still fun, nonetheless. Good memories.
And then, ironically, I went to a high school that had purple and gold.
You did?
I can't escape this. It doesn't stop. Is this a nightmare?
Well, yeah, and I grew up watching like Favre and Reggie White and all them on the Packers team. And, I was in Iowa, so didn't any Midwest team I wanted to root for. But
how can you not love Reggie White?
Right.
Oh, yeah. Legend.
Yeah.
Donald Driver.
Oh, I still have his jersey.
Yeah.
Yep.
But my parents were both from Chicago.
Oh, yeah?
So that was a bit of an issue. I started
the Bears
being like, oh, I love Brett Favre. My mom was like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Try again.
Try again. So, like, what am I supposed to say? I love Rex Grossman. That's better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I ended up being a Packers fan, and
pure hatred for the Bears in my family because all Wisconsin people and Grant. I told you that story. I think that my brother wasn't really a huge NFL fan, but he used to wear Bears shirts just to piss us off. I don't know if you remember that. And we were kids. We were just kids. We went to Grandpa and Grandma's, and Grandpa was diehard Packers. I mean, everything was Packers. And so he forced Chris. He had to be like only, I don't know, 12, 13 years old, maybe a little older. And he was wearing a Bears shirt, and he's like, take that shit off. And he threw it in front of the front door and then wiped his muddy boots on it. Like, that's what we do with Bears shit around here. I was like, Okay.
Oh, okay, Grandpa.
I love the Packers.
I'm a Packers fan, and I'm your favorite, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and then this is random fun fact. I think you know this, but Jarrett Payton's actually married into our family.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, how can you not love sweetness, though? I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's a lovable player.
But the funny
no matter
thing
who you
is,
root for.
a few times we've been at weddings with him, we're always talking about Walter, and
Yep.
well, he's talking about Walter.
Yeah.
And we're just staring at him. We're like, we're Packers fans. Obviously, Walter's a legend.
Oh man, doesn't get much better.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Jarrett's a stand-up guy. Awesome dude. He played in the NFL a bit too, a few years. Jarrett did.
Yeah, I'm trying to place where he played.
I couldn't even tell you. I just remember he played for a few years. Yeah. So
That's a good trivia question.
yeah.
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Comment
I mean,
down
it's
below.
funny. He's married into our family. I've only actually talked to him like 2 or 3 times, and it was always weddings.
Yeah.
It's been years. So, yep.
So yeah, we're in playoff football. Just that time of year where we're gonna, we're getting snow. Weather's really cold. Not much playable golf out there.
Right.
So something I've noticed, at least in my just couple months of coaching here, is number one thing we always ask is, hey, have you had a chance to play, practice at all, work on, what we're getting to work on? And every time it's like,
You already know the
the
answer.
weather,
Right,
the
yeah,
weather,
you kinda know
I
where
can't
that's
get out,
going.
it sucks.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I guess kind of my question, you guys obviously have a lot more experience than I do of, during the off season, if you live in a place with these winter months, how can you not go through that cycle of, losing 10 strokes when you go out in the spring and then spending the whole summer getting back to where you were only to lose it again the next winter? How do you just maintain your
Stop
ability
giving
over winter?
excuses. Get to work in your basement. No, there's actually, I would say we're pretty lucky in Kansas City. There's a lot of options now.
Right.
And you have transitional stuff like Topgolf and Tee Shots. Tee Shots is real close to us here, and you have sim places, right? Like, I mean, we've always rented out our sim room, and
Yep.
and you now have places like X Golf. I mean, there's a lot of options for indoor practice facilities that
Right.
we're well aware they don't replace real golf, right? I mean, that's not the point. The point is just to stay. I think, as you put it, just keep the rust from accumulating. That's what you always tell your clients. Like,
Right,
just don't
yeah.
let the rust accumulate.
That's the term.
You're not going to make huge leaps and bounds over the winter.
No, I kind of call it rust prevention mode. I mean, if you get into like November through March or end of March, you got to get reps in because to John's point, you're not simulating the terrain changing. Like indoor,
Wind,
no matter where you're
weather.
at, range.
Yeah.
It's a neutral level surface, and so, but you're getting swings in. You're making contact. You're dry reps. I like to use this time of year to go a little more aggressive in swing adjustments or changes if people can, because from a coach's perspective, dry reps is where a lot of those changes really do start to happen. And in the season, you're not going to convince people in a seasonal area to stop playing golf outdoors. Yeah. And I'm not going to try. I'm going to let them do that, and they're going to work on things during that time of year. But in the wintertime, it's all about aggressively going through that. But then if you have students that aren't really in a scenario where they need big changes in their swings, it's reps. Get in, a couple reps here and there, a couple times a week, and
if you need it, I mean, it is the time for instruction for sure. It's often not thought of that way because it's winter. We're not playing golf, so why would I work on my game? But it's actually the best excuse, like you said, to break things down because you're not under the pressure of scoring and trying to play your best. It's more like, I have problems. I need to figure them out.
Yep.
At least just broadly. And you may not be fine-tuned in winter, but if you can kind of go through those key fundamental breakdowns, like it's the best time to do it, actually.
And the reality is men's golf for high schools and then colleges, they have spring and fall, but men's golf, that kicks off in March, and so they got to get out there. My rule of thumb with all our high schoolers is if it's 40 or above, go play.
Yeah.
You have to, because in your tournaments, you're going to have to play in those conditions anyway. They're not canceling it.
Especially men's golf.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, both.
Right. They're going
spring and
to, they're
fall,
not
but
canceling it unless it gets below like 36 or the wind's kicked up or something like that. So
tryouts are the 28th.
Right.
Most schools.
Yeah.
Of February.
We're
It's right after
5
the
weeks
golf show, basically.
from men's golf starting. So they have to get out and get acclimated to playing golf cold. which sucks because you don't have feel. Your hands are cold. Your body's cold. You can't turn.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
Tough. No.
But it's necessary.
You got to learn to be scrappy, though.
Yep.
And to all the parents out there, I think it's probably fair to just give a warning that like 2 weeks before the season starts to start instruction is just not going to work. And I don't mean this cynically, like it just factually you have to have prep time there, and especially for a young one that's especially new to the game. Like you get these like freshmen that want to make the golf team, it's like that's a year of prep minimum, and that's playing a lot of golf and not just working with a coach. So
yeah.
Just give them a little more time to develop.
You bet.
Before the season.
You bet. And thankfully we've seen less and less of that. We get a lot of golfers coming in December, January nowadays.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I think parents and kids alike are getting
but
a
I'm
little more aware of it.
It's more of a PSA. Like I'm just
sure.
It's like
right.
to help people that aren't, because you got to realize a lot of those kids and their parents, a lot of them aren't golfers. They just don't know, and they maybe don't realize how insanely difficult this game is. And there's a lot of development that happens.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Yeah, and when you're a couple weeks out, there's only so much you're gonna be covering content wise.
But we're pretty good at like laying down realistic expectations, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think as our careers have evolved, I feel like one of the things I do better now as a coach is helping players set expectations.
Yeah.
And getting ahead of the questions they're going to come back with in weeks 4, 5, and 6. Because everybody's so conditioned to look at the golf ball and the ball flight and it's doing this or that, and it's like, dude, that's 9 steps ahead from where we're at right now. We got to focus on these things here, and we'll get to that, downstream. But
you can't even grip the club. What do you care about ball flight for?
Your setup still is terrible. Yeah, no, depending on where the player's at, obviously that's a relevant part of the discussion. But helping set those expectations for people is a huge component to it.
Yeah, and something I've heard you guys talk about a lot, and what I've tried to do a lot with my students is just hit fewer balls and just make more controlled swings.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like we
and
talk
keep
about
saying that until it's annoying.
Yeah,
seriously.
Yeah, the ball's a mental block because you're worried about how am I going to make impact with this, so you forget about the move you're trying to make with your body. You just lose focus. Well, if you only thing that you can focus on is your swing, you don't have to worry about the ball. You can train those muscles a lot faster.
You bet.
Yeah.
Just get
that's my favorite thing to actually. That's my favorite thing to talk about in instruction is to actually get rid of the stigma of like being a head case and like, oh, I have a mental problem, and it's like, no, you just haven't done this. Like it's not. You're making it a bigger deal actually than it really is.
Right.
You just haven't repeated this, and so like you said, you put the ball in front of you, and it's as simple as your brain just shifts to hit ball mode. You're not thinking about golf swing anymore, and then when you get the ball out of the equation, it's like, okay, motion again. You can focus on motion.
Yeah, which is great when you're on the golf course. You take your practice swing. It's what is my motion? And then you step up to the ball, and it's okay. I need to hit this ball, get it to my target. So it makes sense that we have those kind of two different sides of the brain, two different modes that you get in.
I had a coach at Superstore. Remember Randy?
Yep.
He helped me a lot.
Yep.
He was amazing. Really knew his craft really well. It was surprising, I guess, because like you're in a retail store and you don't really expect but Randy was awesome. They were both awesome, but he used to kind of display it as like just a numbers game. It's like, well, if you have hit this many balls in a certain day, 100 balls or whatever, and you play golf, 150 shots, whatever, you basically have to 3-to-1 this. It's like a ratio game. So every shot you hit, even if it's a good shot, you're going to assume that you swung the club the wrong way for what we're trying to achieve right now.
Right.
So then it just became this like 3-to-1, right? Or 4-to-1. You got to make 3 or 4 good practice swings for every one of those shots. And you start doing math, you're like, oh crap, like I need to be taking like 500 swings a day. Like it's, what the heck? Like I'm doing this wrong. I'm looking at this wrong. And the funny thing is if you really actually adhere to that, things change pretty quick.
They do.
You know, like relatively speaking, it doesn't take that long.
Yeah, I've noticed since COVID where the timelines and the focus for us kind of shifted a bit. People just, relative to the circumstance were maybe not so super comfortable going to ranges or, whatever. There was so much up in the air early on in that process. And I felt like that was really the moment where I really started to emphasize the dry repetitions like really hard. And I've noticed just that has accelerated people's learning far faster.
Yeah.
Because they're not hitting the ball and then judging it, every swing, and you're just not changing things when you do that. You have to allow space for your body to know what it needs to do, right? And so the dry rep focus is, as I like to say, is where it's at, especially early on in the process until it starts to feel more normalized, and then you can add new information once they're just kind of stepping in and going through it. Mm-hmm. And then their brain's freed up to kind of absorb something new. And I know for me especially, John was far better at this early, but as I got into, years 6 and 7 into coaching, not feeling like I had to present something new every week with a student was a big, big deal. And realizing like, no, this is where you're at. Continue to do these reps. Continue to focus on this stuff, because unless you get to this part, I can't move on.
Yeah.
And being able to accept that people are going to learn at different paces as a coach. There's just nothing you can do to control that. And so if you really highlight the dry reps, that seems to accelerate things for students moving forward. So.
Yeah, and really, if you don't do a good job of that, like you said, like being in the process, then you kind of become all the YouTube videos we make fun of.
Yeah.
And I constantly defend the content itself. I don't know if you hear me doing that in lessons.
I do the same thing.
I'll say like,
it's
hey,
great content.
The coach you're watching or the content you're consuming, it's probably accurate.
Yeah.
It's probably not wrong.
Right.
It's like, but there's a real high chance that you're either going to misinterpret it, or it has nothing to do with the step that you're on in your process.
My basic explanation into why YouTube instruction for golfers is really simple. You're learning the golf swing, not your golf swing.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's why it doesn't translate.
Yeah.
So it's a great tool and resource for us as a coach.
Yeah.
But as a player,
to keep up to speed.
Yeah. It's because I've learned a lot of different drills or stuff just through observation and applied some of them that have been pretty effective. But as a player, you translating the information and first stumbling on the thing you actually struggle with. That's a needle in a stack of needles.
Yeah.
Right. And then actually executing what they're giving you or talking about. It's really, really difficult. Golf instruction seems to be way, way more emphasizing hands-on. You have to, at least in those early stages,
It has to.
Yeah, I've done it with a couple students that were pretty set on like, well, the YouTubers, they seem like pretty trusted people, seem like they give good advice. Okay, so I'd be like, okay, you can see here we need to make this adjustment. So, this time change your plane by 5 degrees on your swing. Because we need to be more on plane. That's what the advice they're giving, right? Okay, get more on plane. And then you take a video of them trying to do that.
You're just mean.
It's like,
okay, that's harsh.
Did it feel
you
like
see how bad you are? Well, you're awful at this.
I mean, I presented it a little better way.
He's more diplomatic.
It's like, do you feel like you made that full adjustment of 5 degrees more on plane? Yeah, it felt great. Okay, now look at the video.
Well, my favorite.
Oh, I hardly adjusted.
Or you went 7 degrees in the other direction.
Yeah. So you may have gotten good advice. You may have been given a good drill to do to get you in a good position. Yeah. But what you actually feel like you're doing, what's actually happening, completely unrelated.
So important why we use video, by the way.
Yeah.
And you hear pros talk about that, and they'll talk about like their controlled time for practice where they're like hitting into a net, or they're just not using feedback of any kind. Like that was interesting hearing Jason Day talk about that. I've brought it up a number of times now. I'm probably beating a dead horse, but with clients, they need to hear that stuff because it's like, look, the best players in the world have controlled practice daily where it's like no ball flight, probably no cameras, and especially no simulator because it's, ball flight. But the fact is it's all feel based and it's just like reps. And then granted, that's 1 hour. Then they go out and practice 11 hours on the course. But, that's a controlled time there that they have.
Because I don't think you can shut off the emotional response. Just you hit the shot, you're instantly judging it.
Golf's a 4-letter word for a reason.
Right. So when you're practicing that, there's a time and place for it. Like you're hitting balls, grooves it. So when you get to a place where it's right, groove it. You absolutely hit the range, hit balls
as many as you can.
Yep. But learning to get more efficient to that point, hitting shots isn't really going to help you much in those early stages.
Yeah.
So let's kind of switch and talk about some of the, best players in the world. What is are there any like specific instances or skills or shots that stand out to you guys that you've seen where maybe you think like somebody has mastered the game of golf? There's just an example of mastery of the game.
Broad question.
It is a broad question.
Your initial trigger is to go to Tiger, but that's because Tiger, I think, unbeknownst to many, actually has experimented through his whole life with shot types and hand movements and manipulation at a level that most pros never do. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's not really any one shot. It's like oftentimes in the past when Tiger's made a mistake in a tournament and they're interviewing him after, and it's like, well, why did that happen? The response is like, basically, I had too many options and I didn't pick one. It's like, I had 5 shots in my head and I tried to hit a combo of all of them, and just didn't pick one. Like that's a pro level, that's a Tiger level problem.
And that's always been my criticism of Tiger is he, like Lee Trevino or a Bubba Watson, he actually is incredibly creative and artistic in the way he likes to shape shots.
Yeah.
As robotic and repetitive as his swing is, which he worked countless hours on, I always thought, like, man, you have these stock shots you can go to. Why don't you just simplify it? That's just not the way his brain works. And, he's
actually trying to discover golf shots.
He experiments, probably far too much.
Like invent.
Right. And he just is able to execute it at a level that we can't simply comprehend. So
he's kind of like an insane level engineer talking about something only he understands. And
well,
no one else
remember,
can
like,
it.
he is a nerd.
Yeah.
He is a gigantic nerd.
Totally, yeah.
He's just worth $1 billion, and he's very cool.
And he's more ripped now.
Right. He's got muscles. But one of my favorite videos on TaylorMade's golf feed years ago was him, Day, Rory, DJ. They're all standing around hitting these like 60-yard wedge shots.
Yeah.
And Jason's just like, so what's your process when you're trying to like hit these, field distances where you don't have, a go-to shot?
Shots,
and he basically, Tiger goes into this long, drawn-out answer of like how he uses his hands and turns it. And all of them... Like these top players in the world, they're just like, and Jason just goes, "Could you speak like a normal person, please?" And this is just like, these are some of the best players in the world saying this to Tiger, right? So Tiger is on his own island, like we all recognize that. But he also had, arguably, from '99 to '08, the most efficient golf swing ever.
Yeah.
And the golf instruction industry has this terrible pattern of taking the best player in the world at the time and trying to use that as a doctrine in some of their instruction. Right. And that was probably the only window where that worked because he had a really efficient golf swing.
Yeah.
And if you tried to mimic that stuff, you might have benefited from his one plane or whatever. And, I mean, shoot, Adam Scott copied it in '03 and has never abandoned it. Yeah. And to this day, he's kind of the poster child for swing plane.
But the long putters, though. It gets me.
And the pleated slacks, bro.
I can't help but judge.
Like, for
I'm
real.
so judgmental when it comes to that. I'm like, wow, you really can't putt.
I mean, he's Australian and handsome as ever, so he can just do what he wants. But seriously, pleated slack.
Don't even get my wife started. That's like her second favorite.
She's not
crush.
listening to this.
Yeah. She will. If we're talking about Adam Scott.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I think for me,
we literally didn't anser Brandon's question.
No,
it's a
hard one.
So
it is.
Are you wanting us to like pick favorites?
Well, my example. So I keep getting that video of like Jason Day skipping the ball at the Masters, getting the hole in one. Yeah. But for me, the number one thing is like, okay, this guy has perfected golf. Vijay Singh, about 4 or 5 years ago, he's at the range at the Masters, hitting driver shots with an orange whip.
Oh, I did see that.
Wow, yeah.
I
remember that. Yeah.
But it wasn't even the orange whip. It was the Gold Flex, which is the budget orange whip. That's like $30, off-brand orange whip.
He's very frugal.
And I mean, the head on that one, the weight at the end is barely bigger than the golf ball.
Yeah.
And to put one sphere perfectly to a point on another sphere.
Yeah.
That you can produce
insane.
A normal trajectory.
It's true. He probably stole that from Garrett Clark, to be honest with you. GM Golf and his trick shots, like he's done all kinds of things. No, you're right.
Didn't he do that too, or no? Did he not? Yeah.
I'm sure he might have. Honestly,
that is insane.
Yeah, just the skill required to me. as someone who kind
He
of
just basically shot down any normal shot now. It's like,
yeah.
But
well, I mean, you can pick normal shots too that are just incredible.
Well,
you know, like Bubba out of the woods.
Well, I was gonna say Bubba with a putter.
Iron.
Bubba hitting a drive with a putter. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right? Like teeing up a putter. You don't remember that?
No.
This is pretty well known.
I guess I missed that one.
Yeah, he teed up a putter like this high and he hit it like 290. And everyone was like, okay, this is not normal.
This guy's good.
I mean, I've seen a few people do that on like, you know, like trick shot stuff. To me, like his shot at the Masters was far better. Like hooking a gap wedge around a corner like that is
it's easier to hook a wedge than it is to slice one.
Fair enough, but still, in that moment,
that was insane. No,
in that moment,
I bring it up all the time. I'm not diminishing it.
To win a green jacket, that circumstance makes that shot incredible.
That was his second, right? Green jacket?
No, that was his first.
That was his first. Yeah,
that was his first.
Okay,
yeah.
When was his second? Only like a year or 2 years?
It wasn't nearly as dramatic. He kind of won, not going away, but he was in the lead.
Yeah.
He was comfortable there.
Yeah, that's an icon.
That was a playoff hole against Oosthuizen.
Yeah, on 10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he blew his drive through the dog leg and
then had to hook it around the corner.
Yeah, that was iconic.
It was. That was one of those, you know, really memorable moments in Masters history for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then outside of skill-wise, just thinking like mental game-wise, Tiger Woods, again, a few years ago, he takes a 10 on hole 13. You know, he puts 2 in the water off the tee, or he puts 1 in the water, drops, spins it back in the water again, puts it in the bunker, blades it out of the bunker in the water, just going back and forth on that green. But then he finishes out that round. You know, he's got 6 holes to go after he just made a 10 on a par 3.
Played 2 under, right, or no? Last 6?
He 5 out of 6 he birdied.
Oh, I'm wrong.
Just to come back from a 10 on a par 3 at the Masters, national television. It's Tiger Woods. Everyone's watching you. And then just to go and birdie 5 out of 6.
I mean, to be fair, John did that at World Tour in Myrtle Beach.
That was an out-of-body experience. Never did that again. Didn't we already tell that story? I thought we told that story.
Not on camera.
Oh, God.
We might need to revisit that one. That was a fun, interesting day.
All I'll say for now is 72 with 9 birdies. Do the math.
Right.
Oh, my God.
Everyone listening just went confused puppy. Like, huh?
Yeah.
That's why I had to check my math.
Right. Yeah,
it is possible to shoot even par with 9 birdies if you really screw it up enough on a par 3.
I have also done that, just not as flamboyantly as you did.
It hurts more when you should have shot like a 64, and you're just like, that hurts.
Yep. I have been there.
Yeah,
for sure.
So then, kind of piggybacking off of both of the last 2 things. So if you are in the middle of a round and things start to go south, how do you kind of rein that back in, swing-wise, mechanics-wise, maybe mentally?
I love it.
How do you get to that point?
So I might build off that story just a touch. I'm not going to tell the whole story. I have
a round 2 I can go to there, but go ahead.
Well, it's actually not the best story for it, just because, like, I would say I've come along much longer in mental game, much further along in mental game than since even that point. But like, I'd say it was actually easy on that round. So the story quickly is like I took a 12 on a par 3. I put 5 balls in the water, right? And the sad part was I didn't like shank or blade. Like, they were just well-struck wedge shots that I couldn't find the yardage on. And it was like an island green at like 130 yards.
Which I should say, this golf course that, you know, World Tour had mimicked several holes.
It's an imitation course.
Yes, but the 17th at Sawgrass that they tried to mimic on this par 3 was a third the size of the actual green.
So, in my defense.
Right. So go ahead.
Although, to counter that, the other 2 guys hit it on no problem, so I'm still the idiot. but anyways, so that was only the 3rd hole in the tournament. That's what was crazy, because it was par 4, par 5, and I couldn't tell you exactly. The first hole was a St. Andrews replica, I think.
Right, very easy.
And the second hole, I can't tell you what it was a replica of. It was a long par 5. Remember, it had the houses on the left. Yeah. And it was, and I birdied that, right? So I went 4-4. Yep. And then 5 balls in the water, 12, so 9 over, so I'm 8 over, and then went 8 under through the last 15. But
so what was your back 9 score then? Like 30?
Yeah, because I birdied 18 too. And then
that's crazy.
I can't remember who was keeping my scorecard, but it was a three-person groups, I think, that day maybe. But yeah, and he recorded my 18th hole. And he's like, "Bro, do you have any idea what just happened?" I was like, "I don't know." It's like it straightened out, you know. Like I knew it was good.
Yeah.
But I actually didn't know I made 9 birdies. So when I say out of body experience, it was kind of like I was just like I played good. I made some putts. Yeah, 9 of them to be specific.
Yeah.
I was like,
You were on fire.
Oh, well, that's pretty cool.
You went NBA Jam Fireball.
Well, and that's the crazy part is like 4 of the birdies were over 30 feet.
Right.
Like it wasn't like I was just. It's not like I was sticking shots, you know, to 5 feet all day and tapping them in. Like I was just hitting mediocre approach shots half the time. I was like, oh yeah, there's the hole. Think.
But at that time,
crazy.
I mean, in Myrtle Beach when we played a lot, like that was your MO. Like that, your putter got hot.
Yeah.
Because I think between the two of us,
it was true Tiger vision.
We'd largely agree. Like I was kind of known as the ball striker. So if I got hot and played well, it's because I was throwing darts.
Yeah.
I wasn't making bombs. I'd be good for one.
And I was short game.
And you would get it on the green maybe, but then you'd make a bomb.
Yeah.
5 or 6 times around.
And in Myrtle Beach, I did learn how to hit the ball a lot better. Like it was
no doubt
never equalizing you. You were always the striker. But you stand out as the ball striker in any group still to this day.
Well, that's nice of you.
I mean,
not
that you need any ego cultivating. Holy shit. But like it's
I do have a very large head.
So but like on finishing the question there that Brandon was talking about, like that I actually don't think it's the perfect example because you're so far gone after 9 over on one hole. You're like, you have reset, right? Because you went through like 3 stages. You went through like anger, sadness, confusion, and then finally you're like, whatever. I mean, I guess we'll just have fun the rest of the day, and so you play relaxed. But like for me, I have, and JT can speak to this, but I've gotten to a point where I've like trained my brain to get so in the moment of one shot. Like I literally forget everything else.
Right.
Like to the point where I can't even remember what I did 2 holes ago. So for me, I'm so obsessed with like in the routine, ball lands, game over. And then it's wiped. And then I'm just like, next shot, do it again.
Yep.
And that's whether I'm playing bad or good.
Right.
But that's why when I do play bad, it doesn't really ever get out of control typically. It's like I'm not going to brag about that score. It's not going to be a fun day. But it's like I'm never losing control anymore. Like I've kind of controlled.
So with John, I think he was kind of predisposed to having that mindset. I, on the other hand, got to Myrtle Beach as a classic overthinker and would think my way out of good scores routinely because I'm like well aware what I'm shooting and and John can speak to this. There were so many rounds we played, and you were probably there for a lot of them where we would have
83, 82, baby,
polar opposite.
Got you by 1,
right? and I'd go out in 37, John shoot 43, and then we'd mirror that on the back 9, and it was just like, well,
that was actually did happen a lot. Where we would swap 9s. Yeah,
a weirdly large amount of the time we were polar opposite 9s and end up with the same damn score or a stroke off. In difference, and that was really sounded terrible. But I think what I've learned in the last 3 or 4 years going back into tournament golf was similar to what John was saying, is learning how to stay kind of shot to shot. And because I had this weird ability to recall everything, I had to learn how to shut that off. Mm-hmm. And I think you're probably more like me than that.
Right now I could even recall some of the full rounds that I played in Myrtle Beach, shot for shot.
Lord, I can't do that. Since kids, I've lost that ability.
Outside of that crazy, stupid round that we were just talking about, not at all for me. No.
I have a handful that stand out, but legitimately, I
might have a memory problem, but that might be worth mentioning.
How many concussions did you have?
Yeah. I think 0, but I'm not sure.
I don't remember.
I guess exactly.
That's a problem.
Too many, clearly. No, prior to kids, not to like throw my children under the bus, but I felt like I had the ability to recall for years, rounds, shot by shot, hole by hole, and I can still do that within the day, and so like if I'm playing with 3 other guys, I can list my shots and all of theirs. And it came from, weirdly, this habit I got into in high school where I didn't like confrontation. but I hated cheaters.
More than confrontation.
I would know my score and everyone else's, and instead of just being like, no, you didn't have a 5, you had a 7, I'd just be like, oh, well, you went here, 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 and and they'd be like, oh yeah, I guess I did. And that was just my way of keeping track and making sure the scores were legitimate. And so as I got older, it just kind of evolved into this. I'm way too hyper aware of every swing I'm making.
I used to be more that way.
Right, yeah.
I told you about that kid I DQ'd in one of our tournaments.
Right.
Yeah. That was different, though, because his dad walked out in the fairway, and I was like, yeah, you can't do that. And he did it multiple times.
Hey, you can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, from a standpoint of being a competitor, you're not exactly excited to work your ass off and like have all this stress through 4 hours and then get beat by someone that's cheating.
Oh, hell no.
That's total crap.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to call that out,
Right.
And we all need to.
As you should.
But the problem is it's not normal. I mean, it's not normal to call it out in golf because golf's such a hobby-based, like, relaxing sport for everybody.
And it's supposed to have some integrity.
Everybody shoots
you govern yourself.
88, but they're actually shooting 105. That's not
Didn't you have a student who was like, yeah, my buddies are coming in and shooting 88s, and you're like, but you gave yourself 12 strokes?
Oh, that was fun. It was just a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he was talking about, like, he said something to the tune of, like, I'm having trouble beating them, but that's because they're cheating. And I'm like, are you an idiot? like, dude.
Oh, you are beating them.
You're beating them. Like, you need to call that shit out. 'Cause he's like, the craziest part was they weren't cheating like a stroke here or there. You remember that? It was like 12 or 14 strokes.
Legitimately, yeah.
You're just like, they're not even, this is ridiculous. They're not even trying to hide it.
Right.
Like,
because like my family, like playing with my dad and uncles and grandpa, like it was pretty routine. You'd have the breakfast ball off the first tee, and then we'd let you. It was kind of a standard rule. You could use a mulligan on the back 9, if you had just a disastrous shot.
Yeah.
So at most you could have 2.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was the only thing that we kind of instituted. And then obviously as you played competitively, that went away.
Yeah.
Or it should.
Yeah.
That'd be like playing basketball and just pulling out a ladder.
Yeah. Well, I would need to. I have
That's
zero.
perfectly fair.
Yeah. I mean, but this doesn't discredit like pace golf and like keeping things moving. And we're not, of course, like when you're a weekend golfer, like fluffing your lie or just, I mean, it's not a big deal to do those things.
No,
and
not
you
at all.
should like to keep the pace moving. Like the fact that you don't want to go re-tee after
playing
a
out of
OB.
bounds is lateral.
Yeah, like
whatever.
just
Well, yeah, the
keep it
rules have
moving.
helped in the last few years with
Yeah.
that. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, honestly, some of that is just sticking to your process. And to John's point, like I got a lot better at kind of immersing myself into my pre-shot routine. And that's what helped take the emphasis off of what am I shooting? And it's just like, task at hand, this is the shot I have to hit. So
one thing, I don't want to get like too deep in this wormhole, but I'm going to bring it up because it pertains to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And like I struggle with this, and you know a lot about this, but like dealing with your stress on the golf course is one thing. When you pull stress from your life onto the golf course,
amen.
and it's got nothing to do with golf itself, it's paralyzing.
Yep.
And like for me, running a business, I won't get into all the details, but that's like bringing all of that baggage and then expecting to somehow be focused to play a 4-hour round of golf. It ain't happening.
Right.
And like stroke count, by the way, like it can go anywhere at that point. Like you can have a player that shoots 15 strokes higher than they should.
Truly.
Because they're not clear. And it's literally because your mind's not even on the golf course. So I brought that up because like a lot of people have a lot of stress, and a lot of it's very normal stress, like family, work, life stress. And if you expect to play golf like well, let alone have fun, and you're pulling all that shit with you on the course, ain't happening. You're going to hate golf.
Yep.
So not to get too deep and too real, but
Yeah.
I think it's important to mention because you're like, you have to have that handled or solved before you even talk about the on-course struggles, right?
Mm-hmm. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So I'm just now getting over that and kind of learning that.
Right.
So then mechanically, how can you make adjustments on the course without further ruining your swing? And
Short answer, you don't. Seriously, you basically don't do that. You have, tournament golf or just playing for a score. Like we talk a lot about as an amateur playing casual golf. If you're there to practice, throw the scorecard away, experiment and practice.
Yeah.
If you're putting a score on paper, then make course management your priority and choose the clubs that perform for you. So if you've blown 6 drives out of bounds, put the driver away and get a club that puts it in play. I don't care if you have to go down to a 7-iron.
Yeah.
It's survival. You have to get the ball in play. And like I tell a lot of our young players, don't be the guy that's donating strokes off the tee.
Yeah.
Don't give the player in your group or the opponents in your group momentum because you're just handing it over by making a poor decision off the tee box. So at minimum, if you can just advance it inside of 200 yards, and this is what I've gotten immensely better at, is round to round, I go down to clubs I know I can put in play off the tee, minimize damage, and even if I have to lay back between 170 and 200, I'll take that in the short grass to have an opportunity to get it on the putting surface.
Yeah.
Right. Because statistically, we're aware that green in regulation, that is the stat. If you can get it on the green, you're going to lower your scores. You have to get opportunities for birdies and putts. So I think course management is what I've really immersed myself into the last few years, and that's why scoring average, I've kind of just sustained, while coaching 20 to 30 rounds a year, a 74-ish scoring average. It's about, it goes up and
with
down.
30 rounds a year.
Right. So, and largely like trying to maintain a competitive edge with that type of schedule is nearly impossible. So I'm looking through my stats to see how can I improve certain areas, and being really structured then in my practice. How can I attack certain things with the time I do have?
Yeah.
Because like a lot of our golfers, I got a family, we're running business. I don't get a lot of time to play or practice. And so I have to be really pragmatic about the time I do get on the golf course. And so it's actually been helpful to sift through the numbers and see, like, okay, here's where my weaknesses are. Here's what I can attack. And I'm going to hit, I still average 2 penalties around. So you're going to forget those mistakes and continue to move forward and become kind of numb to the result, like we like to say. If you can become a bit emotionless to what the golf ball does and just stick to, okay, I have to go find it and hit it again. Just simplify it, really. That helps a ton. And that's really what I have felt in the last couple of years. And maybe that's just some maturity nearing 40 that I'm just kind of moving into that phase in life. But I felt like I've also worked at it a lot, too.
Yeah. Oh, and don't wait so damn long to make those adjustments, though. Because you were talking about, like, you've hit 6 drives out of bounds. It's like, dude,
after 2.
If I hit 1, I'm in caution mode.
Right. Yellow lights up.
Like, shit, you're patient.
But that happens.
Yeah. That's normal.
But it happens. And what's hilarious is that golfer, and I won't name names, but that golfer will come in bitching about players. Joe's raising his hand. That golfer will come in and complain about their driver problems, right? They hit 4 OB, but then they had 42 putts.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started.
And I'm like, oh, Lord in heaven.
Math. Basic math.
The math is not mathing, as the kids like to say, right? So you're giving away 10 strokes with one club, and you're worried about these 4 balls you hit out of bounds with driver.
Yeah. Which sucks.
Putter is the one club you use every hole.
Yeah.
Right? It should be your best friend. It should have a name, like a boat, right? You're going to name your putter.
Yeah.
That is the club that should makes the impact
next to
on
your
the scorecard.
bed at night. Everything.
Sleep with it. Yeah, right.
There's a reason the saying is drive for show, putt for dough.
Correct.
Yeah. Even John's example with, going 8 over through 3 and shooting level par because he was making 30-foot putts all day. There
was a club that did that for him, and it wasn't his driver.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it was. You weren't putting with driver.
If you turn that off, it's like, at best, if you turn that off, that putter, it's a mediocre day, right? And more typically, like, it's a bad day because that 12 turns into other bogeys. Yeah. That 12 on that hole, I'm saying, turns into other bogeys. It's not. Yeah. So that's, to be very clear, a freak. That's an anomaly, right? That's
no
a
doubt.
day that's out of character for even a great putter.
So, Joe, is that something that you find you've battled as a newer golfer, I guess, right? You're a few years into this.
Yeah, for sure. Driver's always kind of been tough for me.
Yeah. You slice it?
Like we were talking about. Well, when I first started, definitely. Like, that was the first thing I fixed was my slice. But But now, and then, of course, I told you I got a Mizuno driver, and that was like this. When I first saw that spin, those numbers, I was like, I got to do something about this because this is getting crazy. And I'd even, I'd feel like I'd hit it center, or if I was even off a little bit.
What model is it, did you say? Do you know?
It's a ST 200.
200, yeah.
It's a gamer.
Yeah.
200G, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm playing the 190G.
Yeah.
Still. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just important to kind of recognize that the driver is meant to be complimentary as an amateur golfer, right? We see the problem is, as a viewer, as a fan of golf, you get the highlight reel on Saturday and Sundays. When you're watching football, basketball, you see the mistakes, you see the turnovers, right? It's all that stuff. When you're watching these guys win a golf tournament, they're also on fire.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
because that's what it takes to win on tour.
They're doing what I did that one day, except without a 12 on a hole.
Yes.
And it's just like drain putt after drain putt after drain.
But in all sincerity, it does condition you to think, these guys never miss.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Yeah.
The tour average for greens is 65%. They're missing 6 greens around. They're only hitting 60% of their fairways. So they're not perfect.
Yeah.
They're overcoming mistakes. Golf is a game of recovery for that reason. You have to be able to adapt and react appropriately. And so it's just putting that knowledge on golfers, which I lacked when we were in Myrtle Beach. I wasn't aware. I like a lot of people, thought, well, if I could get my driver figured out, I'll play good golf, which is a lot like saying if I could dunk, I'd win every basketball game. Like, no, that's so one-dimensional in your thinking. And so I, like a lot of golfers, made the mistake of kind of going to the wrong end of the bag first.
Yeah. It's probably fair to say figure out your driver, have more fun.
Yeah.
Because it's fun to crush the ball.
It is. Sure. I don't deny that.
But, I mean, I've also watched a lot of people crush the ball and then proceed to shoot awful.
Yeah, it's fun to shoot.
I've been
low
that
scores.
golfer.
So it's like, you're right.
Would be me. No.
Yeah, and the unsexy, the not sexy discussion is that to be a good golfer, you have to be balanced, right? Like you can have everyone's got their own strengths, but you can't be awful at anything, right? And be a good golfer. You have to be decent at everything, and then hopefully excel in a few categories.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I always tell people, it's like maximum you're hitting 14 drivers around.
Yeah,
depending on how many you hit out of bounds, maybe more. But usually,
so I even scale that back
off the tee.
Because if I'm using my averages, I average about 10 drivers around, and then I'm hitting 3-iron or 4-iron off the other tees. Right.
You have a benefit though of being strong
with
the 3-iron. But.
Yeah. If you have good game management,
yeah,
you're probably only hitting maybe half the holes you're hitting driver.
Yeah.
If you're shooting 80, you still have 70 more strokes to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, that's, you look at the percentage, the ratio there, 9 to 70, or, you go 10 to 70, 1 to 7. So one out of every 7 shots when you're practicing should be a driver.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then most of it should be 100 yards and in.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
Chipping, putt.
Yes.
But don't discredit the fact that you do play to your individual strengths too. Because the one flip argument to that, which it doesn't counter that narrative, I mean, like how you practice should literally scale back from the green, right? That's where all the effort's put in. And then as you get further away, I mean, you literally narrow down your practice schedule. But there are instances where you have a player that might be really confident with driver. And I can say this because I went through a stint like this where although the smarter play at that time was a 4-iron or something off the tee to place the ball, I literally didn't feel as good about a certain club like that as I did about a driver.
Yes.
And it wasn't blind or not justified. Like I was statistically more accurate. Mm-hmm. And then you get freaks like McIlroy who can hit bombs like at a 75% fairways hit rate, which is unheard of. But you do get people like that. So I think the bigger narrative is like make sure you're playing to your strengths 100%.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's from an average standpoint, he's near 55. The point being, though, is that he has scoring opportunities. So even if it's a yard or two off the fairway, he can see the green.
Yeah.
And that's a great emphasis because I often tell people I'm not anti-driver. I'm just pro-smart thinking. If you're hitting driver well,
it's not about the driver.
Hit driver.
And be smart.
Hit it 14 times. Like I'm for that. But with the moment it goes south, which is where this question kind of started, is then be quick to adjust.
Yeah.
And be quick to put that away.
1 or 2.
You know, by the third swing, if you're just uneasy, let's shift gears and go into, you know, placement.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was thinking more from, you know, an amateur, average golfer sort of perspective. Because, I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
pretty much every swing analysis I've gotten in here starts with, well, I can hit my short irons great, but my driver,
Okay. That will never change
every single one.
because 7 through wedge, the scoring irons, they have enough loft to where they're forgiving.
Yeah.
So, two things. You're going to have golfers who are unaware they're losing distance and accuracy with those clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not aware. They are confident enough. And truthfully, if you couldn't, even as an amateur, hit those clubs, they wouldn't stick with the game. Like, it would just be painful,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I think
Because their putter's awful.
same
too.
as you guys, when we got to Myrtle Beach 12 years ago, I was great with those clubs.
Yeah.
But 3, 4, 5 iron all went the same yardage for me.
Yeah.
So I basically just hit 5 iron and my 3 and 4 stayed in the bag.
So correction, you got away with your problems with those clubs.
I did.
Because that's essentially what's going on.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're becoming more efficient, that you're really trying to gain access to the top half of the bag for a lot of amateurs.
Yeah.
Because they have no confidence in those clubs. They don't really have the ability to hit them. And then you see the distance separation shrink in that part, which it should actually increase.
Right.
Right. So, it's just about kind of being aware of that stuff because those are characteristics, like, as a whole, golfers are very predictable. You're going to see that indefinitely.
Especially the longer you do this.
Yes.
I mean, 10 years in, you don't even have the discussion anymore. You're just like asking
Sure.
questions to keep it interesting for them. You're
The
like,
moment-
yeah, I saw one swing, dude. I already got
The moment
you. Like,
someone
you're
says-
pinned.
Right. The moment someone says I played baseball, I'm like, I know what you look like.
Like, people don't even have to tell me they played
roast
baseball.
it.
I always go, so you played baseball, huh?
Yeah.
Like, hey, how'd you know?
No, for real. Like
'Cause-
hockey, basketball. I mean, you see certain athletic tendencies with a lot of these.
Forget the
golfers.
golf shots. We're just going to start your analysis right now.
I haven't hit a ball. I don't need to see it.
Yeah.
What sports did you play? I got you.
I
A
got
lot of questionnaire. Like,
Hey,
it
doesn't come from cynicism. It's efficiency.
It's it's experience. We've seen thousands of those.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I interrupted Joe. That was
no,
mean.
you're good.
Joe, you probably noticed that in your game, like how much you get away with a lot of your misses 7 iron in, like 7 iron through wedge.
Yeah, I'm sitting back here and I'm getting roasted. I feel like I'm also loving it. Too,
Hopefully
because,
educating.
Like,
yeah. Okay.
because that is like my weak point.
Yeah.
But like I'm gotten really good at like the most important shot is your next shot, and that's just how I kind of go through.
I can see
life.
that with you. Yeah.
So-
Like mindset.
Whoa,
was
getting
big.
deep.
Yeah. No, I just like I don't let it sweat for too long, and it's just got to move on. So
Well, but you bring up a good point, man. I mean, golf is one of the few sports that truly exposes what your real personality traits are. As a basketball player, I felt like I could kind of become that confident person on the court. You got teammates, you got, that environment. Football, same thing. Golf, it is lonely, man. Like, it is just you. And the moment it starts to tail downward, you got to be really strong mentally to handle it. And I just wasn't in Myrtle Beach. And it's taken a long time for me to be aware and gain control of those things, for sure. So your deep is correct, because it is. I mean, you're pulling from the personality trait you have a lot of the time.
I was a pitcher and, a big baseball player.
Right.
Pitcher's the one position that feels kind of like that.
Very much.
Lonely.
I
Shot
was
to
also
shot.
a pitcher.
Especially when that shit hits 3-0 or 3-1. You're just like,
Oh, boy.
my ass is about to be on the bench. Yeah. So that loneliness is like really, really a huge part of just like he's got to edit out his driver in his golf game.
yeah. Well, it's actually done. I'll record. Hold on. It's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it was like I've played whole rounds with my 4-iron
Oh, yeah.
because
You good with it, though?
yeah,
Confident with
I mean,
it? Yeah.
it's a piss missile.
That's good.
That's awesome.
That's good. And I ask a lot of our golfers to try that. Throw out the woods, play up a tee box if you want, but learn how to score minus the long clubs.
Yeah, I de-loft a ton, so I hit stangers like without trying. So
Okay.
So you blade the shit out of it.
no,
No, I have actually
I
seen
actually
him play.
do like I hit everything.
That's awesome.
I've gotten better at controlling it,
Yeah.
but
I can vouch for Joe and say that he's mechanically not the typical like amateur we would see. He's got a lot of good foundation stuff going on. So
I don't know. We have to get some videos, so
we can do that.
We'll have plenty of opportunity.
I'm like, you guys can use me as a test dummy.
Turns out Imperial Golf does golf instruction.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Oh yeah.
And club fitting.
Yeah, we're getting into that too.
Yeah.
We
So-
kind of know what we're doing.
If you want to check out any of our fitting or instruction,
Yeah,
you can head to our website. We'll link it in the description of this video.
Yep.
absolutely.
Love to help you. Hopefully we haven't pissed you off too much with how condescending we are towards our students.
That attracts more people. So,
Got that tough instruction. Tough love.
yeah, absolutely. We're honest here.
Yeah. Yeah, we won't. If your swing's bad, we'll let you know. Don't worry.
But we'll help you fix it.
Yep.
And your mentality.
Yep.
So,
You got to become well-rounded,
Yeah.
and that being a good golfer is more than just swinging the club properly. So we have to attack it from every angle.
and we've got to have fun. Because why do this otherwise?
Pretty much.
Got to be fun.
Yep.
So, so yeah, check us out. Right.
Yeah. Thanks
all
again.
social media platforms. Like, share, subscribe. We'll be on YouTube. We got a new platform we just set up for audio, right? Is that correct?
SoundCloud, yeah.
SoundCloud?
And then
Yep.
eventually Spotify, I guess. That's
Yep.
going to take some time. But
Yep.
And possibly Apple Music.
Oh,
Right.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching.
Right.
If you just skipped to the end, screw you. And we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
Peace.